get ready for one more sale. Inspiring you with ideas through powerful and engaging interviews with top performers of their field. Now, join us as we discuss techniques and strategies of the coolest and most successful people on the planet.
Hey Sales Masters, David Hill here with one more sale, Path to Mastery. As always, guys, we are seeking out the best of the best, and there's no exception this week. And this week, we're switching it up a little bit and changing our focus to the buyer side of the business. Yeah, because of the market shifting, we have to figure out how to capture these buyer leads. So I went out, I found you the best, Nate Riel, who is a local agent, and he will do, get this, 70 buyer closings. Imagine that. Imagine how much work you would think that is, 70 buyer closings. And Nate is just awesome. And you're going to see why he's able to do that after listening to this interview. Guys, here are a few things Nate does to stay focused. One, he follows up ASAP. All right, he said you got to follow up in that first 15 minutes. And after an hour, forget about it. Right? We got to be like a friend, but also we need to be a professional first, right? So he listens to his clients. He builds a relationship with his clients. He gives them a ton of information, guys. He gives them so much information so that they're able to make the right decisions. He also offers them stuff that other agents can't give, which is access to properties they may not be able to find on the MLS. And he'll talk to us about that. And guys, he just mastered the follow-up process. I mean, this guy's a machine. He is awesome. You got to listen to this interview. So I hope you enjoy it. Nate is tremendous. I can't wait to go back, share it with my buyer team right away and make them listen to it over and over and over and master it. So guys, hey, enjoy. If you love the podcast, please share it with someone. Give us a review on iTunes. It really helps our listenership. And again, enjoy, share, and have a tremendous rest of your day. David Hill here with one more sale, Path to Mastery. This week, as always, we're bringing in just rock stars, and no exception. We have Nate Riel with us, who is part of Jim Black's team. I know Jim Black because he worked with me for a lot of years. I know Nate has been in the business 3 years now. He joined Jim's team, and I want to say 2014. And get this, guys, I know we always talk about the listing side of the business, but what we're realizing now is the fact that without the buyers, without a good buyer team, it's really, really hard to achieve those big numbers, especially as the market's starting to shift. Nate is about to do 60 to 70 buyer sides this year himself, and he's already closed 40. So that's just phenomenal, Nate. So hey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So let's just jump right into it, man. Well, first off, just fill in a couple of the gaps. Tell us, what brought you into real estate. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so what brought me to real estate was really my love for actually pursuing properties on my own. That's kind of where I started. I purchased a couple of properties actually with Jim about 5 or 6 years ago, and then we kind of became friends and said, hey, why don't you seem like you enjoy this? Why don't you see if you want to get into the business? So I went ahead, got my license, got started with Keller Williams, and then about 6 months later, talked with Jim some more, and we decided to team up and kind of went from there. It kind of just spiraled into something that turned into a career. So that's kind of how it started.
That's awesome. And like I said, you guys are really doing great things. I'm really impressed with Jim, a good friend of mine, and you guys are killing it this year. So let me ask you, why buyer side, though? Why did you decide to focus on the buyer side?
It was really because I enjoyed the process of the buyer. I'm not really good at selling property. I've bought properties myself and held on to them to long-term investments, and I like that side of it because it's more, I felt like I was helping people through the process that maybe didn't really know much about real estate, and I was also helping them to get the best deal possible and really negotiate hard for them and try to get the property for the best price possible and all that good stuff. And I just enjoyed that more so than the seller side, which I do from time to time as well, but the buyer side really is where I think my personality fit best with people, and I was able to not become friends with people, but really build more of a strong relationship with them throughout the process as we're going out, looking at homes and spending a lot of time together. So that's more or less why I got involved on that side of the business.
How, Nate, did you, come to realize that was where you were meant to be? It sounds like you did some work on the seller side as well. Was there a moment when you said, wow, I just really prefer to be on the buyer side? Or what does that look like?
Yeah, I think it really, kind of probably happened maybe about 9 or 10 months into it when I was dealing with 2 or 3 different sets of buyers at one time, and I had some people that were really appreciative of all the time and effort that I put into, helping them through the process. And that really, for me, was, almost as important as the money aspect of it, where, I had someone who really was thankful that I guided them through the process, someone who had a bad experience in the past and maybe had a sour taste in their mouth about purchasing a home, turned them into someone who was very, very happy. So that, for me, was very rewarding. And that's when I sat back and said, you know what, this is the part of the business I really enjoy being involved in the most, and it grew from there.
So let me ask you this. When you say you took someone that kind of had a bad taste in their mouth and it wasn't a great experience and you transitioned them, what does that look like? How do you achieve that?
It's pretty simple and basic, man. I try to always be the same no matter what situation I'm in, and kind of just talk to people straight, and, maybe not try to sell them on something as much, let them sell themselves, more or less, just provide them with a lot of good information, guide them through the process, answer any questions that they have, and then, when that right house comes along, pretty much explain to them why, after all the things we've been through, kind of tell them, this is, from what you've told me, this is the house for you. To me, it works out better that way than necessarily trying to sell them at the first meeting. You kind of, like I said, I just talk to them the way I talk to anyone else, and take it as it comes, and just be good about getting back to people quickly and giving them all the information they could possibly need about a particular property, and just go along the process from there.
So it sounds like you guys are really service-based when it comes to that. Are you having all your buyers sign buyer agreements?
Yeah, I present it to them at the first meeting. I don't necessarily make them sign it at the first meeting. I give them the agency disclosure, which they sign, and then go over the buyer agency agreement with them.
So let me ask you this. The first meeting, is that in your office or are you meeting on the road?
It's really a mix. I try to meet everyone in the office first meeting, but there's some people that are a little bit further along, a little bit more seasoned as far as buying a home than others, and they need a little more hand-holding up front than some other people might need. So if there's someone who's really set on wanting to see a house, I don't particularly like to do it, but if it's something where I say, okay, I'll meet them at the house for the first house, see how that goes, and then if I wasted any time, it was only for one showing and not for a whole afternoon. So there's times when I meet someone at a house, and that'll be the first meeting, but I try to get people in the office, but it's not always the case.
Can I ask, Nate, how do you determine whether somebody should come into the office or somebody that you should meet at the property?
Just based on the first phone conversation, I'll ask them a few questions. How long have they been thinking about buying a home? Have they gone and talked to a lender yet about getting pre-qualified? If somebody has gone the steps of, they've gone to get a pre-approval and they're already pre-approved, then I say, okay, well, this person is obviously a little bit further along in the process. And if they did like the house, we could actually make an offer on it. So in that case, I'm much more open to meeting them at a property instead of meeting them at my office. But if it's somebody who, when I ask them that question, they say, no, I'm not pre-approved yet, I just kind of started, that's the person that I really push to get into for an office consultation before we even go to look at a house, because they're not only wasting my time, but obviously they could be wasting their time too if they're looking at properties they can't even afford. So try to save them that.
So now the person that hasn't even been pre-approved yet, are you still meeting them at the office, or do they have to get pre-approved before you meet them?
No, I mean, I don't set that requirement to get pre-approved before I meet them. I try to, an office meeting for me only takes an hour out of my life, and I feel like it's worth it because the more people that I meet, the more I translate into more business down the road. It may not be immediate business, but it's somebody who, once I meet them, they have a face to go along with the name. We've seen a lot higher rates of success with actually closing future business with that person. So we just try to get someone in the office, like I said, try to start the process there and answer a lot of questions for them, introduce ourselves, and answer any questions they might have for us. So yeah, how it goes.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I really want our listeners to get what you just said, because now you're the third person in probably the last month that said the same thing, that it's really about getting in front of people, meeting people, and just getting out there. I know Bob Lucido, who's the #1 agent at KW, said we need to get belly to belly with our clients. Last week, Todd Lemoyne, who's got an amazing team out of Atlanta, said the same thing. We can't just sit in the office all day making calls. We got to get out there, get in front of people. And now here you are saying it again on the buyer side. So I absolutely love that. I want all of our listeners to get that. Thank you, Nate. So listen, tell us about, how do you work with 40 buyers? How do you close 40 buyers? You're probably not working with 40 at the same time, but how many are you typically working with at the same time? First question, and then how do you close 40 and with a goal of 70?
Yeah, so at any one time, I'm working with probably 3 to 7 different buyers. That may be anywhere from the very beginning stages of the process to the home inspection to moving towards closing. So they're not all looking at 5 to 10 houses a week at the same time. So it makes it a little bit easier. But I would say the way that I'm able to do it is really just by being focused and scheduling, my time and not really wasting any hours during the day that are available for meeting with people. So I'll try to obviously set the showings up for buyers that are the most ready to buy first, and then I have other hours left over during the week that I'll backfill with people. I'll present properties to different buyers that I think may be a fit, and if they say, let's go take a look at that house and we'll book that showing. So it's really just a matter of being, intentional with setting up my hours throughout the week. Plus the fact that I'm on a team, I have, people behind the scenes that are handling a lot of the nitty gritty work, all the paperwork that's involved with the purchase transaction, coordinating with lenders, coordinating with attorneys. I don't have to do any of that stuff. So it allows me to free up all my time to meet with buyers and work with buyers.
So you're able to just focus on your top 20%, Nate, which is what? Getting out there, getting, like you said, in front of the buyers, getting them in homes and writing offers. Is that what you're telling us?
That's exactly what I'm saying, yep.
And what about your lead gen? Do you lead generation for buyers as well? Is there a set time where you come in and make phone calls? What does that look like?
Yeah, so right now I don't really have a set time that I lead gen. I probably should, but the team has quite a few listings, so we get plenty of leads just off of our listings, and I try to, if I'm available by phone or email, I try to keep an eye on things. So when leads come in, I follow up with them quickly because, as most people have seen, if you're fast about getting back somebody, the rate of success is much higher. So call people back right away, answer any questions they have right away, and just have that initial conversation with them and ask some of the questions, see if they're not working with an agent already, and if they're not, really try to see how we can help them. Even if it's not with one of our listings, just finding a house in general.
So when you say follow up quickly, what does that look like? Is that 2 minutes? Is that 20 minutes? An hour?
No, I try to get it within the first 15 minutes. And if not within the first 15 minutes, definitely within the first hour. After that, it's the success rate goes way down. So we try to be fast. So the sooner the better, obviously. From personal experience, I've seen that. If I call someone back right away, I have good success getting to meet with them and then closing a deal with them in the future. I know how important that is, and that's why I focus on that.
I love that you said that, because a lot of times buyers' leads are coming through the internet, through different websites. People may be at work, surfing on the web, and then they shoot out a response to you. Maybe they're on a 15-minute break, right? And, 15, 20 minutes down the road from now, they're not even thinking about real estate again. They've moved on to what's next in their life, right?
Exactly.
So you got to really be on top of that. So are you seeing a difference between like internet leads versus phone calls versus like open house leads? What are your response times?
The best response that I have been getting is from like a phone call lead where somebody has called. Maybe they see one of our signs out somewhere and they just call on a specific property. Much better return rate on that than an internet lead, especially an internet lead that doesn't have a phone number. We get leads all the time where it's just an email address, and I would say, it's not very often that we get a real buyer from something like that. It's usually somebody who is motivated enough to pick up the phone and call us. When they have that kind of motivation level to call on a property, they're probably going to be a serious buyer anyways, and it seems to translate that way. Open houses, recently I haven't had as much luck. I found that, in the last 12 months, it seems that more and more buyers are already represented. That probably goes along with what you started off this conversation by saying and how important it is to have a buyer business. It seems like maybe a lot of people are seeing it that way too, because I've seen the trend where, we aren't getting as many unrepresented buyers coming to our open houses. So we're not able to capture as many leads that way.
One thing I was wondering is, are they actually represented, or are a lot of buyers just saying that they're represented?
I think it's probably 50-50. If they're putting an agent's name down on the sign-in sheet, then I would say there's a pretty good chance that they're committed to that agent. There's not necessarily a contract in place, I wouldn't think, but It's one of those people where if you call them and you talk to them, they're going to say, I'm already working with so-and-so. If somebody is just checking off a box saying they're working with an agent, it's probably a good chance that they're just saying that because they don't want you to bother them. They're just, maybe they're early on in the home buying process and they're not really ready to pursue the property yet. So for those people, if they don't have a name, we'll call them. If you don't hear back from them, we will follow up with them just to make sure periodically, send an email or give a phone call just to check in. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but I have seen that there are definitely more people that are actually stating who they're working with as far as an agent goes when they come to the open house these days than there were maybe a year or 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm pretty rusty on this. I can't tell you the last time I did an open house. But my team members are saying pretty much the same thing, that a lot of buyers are coming through, putting down names, or even after they may not put down a name and say, oh, well, I am actually working with John Smith. You know what I mean? So
right.
When that happens, are you digging deeper on that? What does that look like?
I would say just accept it. I mean, if someone tells me they're working with so-and-so, I might say, first of all, ask if there's a contract in place, if they have a buyer agency agreement with that person. If they tell me yes, then I end the conversation there. But if they say no, then, I might ask a couple follow-up questions like, how's everything going so far? Are you happy with the process to this point?
Awesome. Will you role play this with me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right, awesome, cool. So I'm a buyer. I just walked into your open house.
Yeah.
Hey, man, thanks for having me over.
Oh, thanks for coming. I appreciate you coming.
How much are you guys asking for this house?
$250,000.
$250. Okay, great. Yeah, it looks like a decent house.
Certainly has a lot of amenities for that price. How's your home buying process going up to this point?
Well, we just kind of go to a lot of open houses right now, and we're just kind of, looking for the right thing. Oh,
you have a realtor or an agent helping you at this point?
We kind of have someone that we know, you know what I mean? But we don't really like to waste their time, so we just kind of go out and look at our own stuff, and then if we find something we like, we call them.
Oh, really? So how are you finding these properties that you like?
We just use sites like Zillow and Realtor.com and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Well, do you have a contract with this person that you're working with?
No. Like a contract, like what kind of contract?
Like a contract between you and that agent to work together in the purchase of a home throughout a certain period of time.
No. We just, like I said, we know him. In the past, he used to send us a bunch of listings. He still does, I think, send us listings, but we like to kind of find a lot of stuff on our own.
I see. I mean, I'll tell you one thing, that the inventory is pretty low right now, and, my team works with many buyers, and we kind of have to be creative how we find properties for our buyers. Since there's not too many good properties on the market, we do a lot more than just sending, listings from the MLS to our buyers. So would you maybe be interested in finding out a little bit more on how we do that? Maybe you'll have a little bit better luck finding the right home with us.
What would you do different?
We attack for sale by owner properties that maybe aren't on all the websites or out on the internet at all. We target specific neighborhoods. If you guys have, a certain area you really want to be in, we'll actually door knock that neighborhood. We'll call that neighborhood. We'll do whatever we have to do to try to find somebody who may be thinking about selling their home that might not necessarily have it on the market at this point. So, those are ways that we are able to find houses that might work for you that you wouldn't otherwise have seen.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that, definitely.
Great. Do you have time this coming Monday or Wednesday in the afternoon?
Yeah, definitely. Do you have some stuff to show us?
Yeah, no, let's, I was thinking maybe we could set up an hour or so, just have coffee and then go over some things. If you do have a spare 15, 20 minutes or a half hour, I'd love to get to know you a little bit more so I can really target the right types of properties for you.
Yeah, sure. That sounds good to me, man.
All right, let's plan on Wednesday at 3 p.m.
You are listening to One More Sale.
Hey, dude, great job, man. You nailed it. That was awesome. Good stuff.
Thank you.
So let me ask you this. So you're going to meet them on the road, or are they going to come to your office, or what does that look like?
Really, it depends on the location. We do business outside of our market center area. So if it's somebody who lives a little bit further away, I might set up a meeting at a coffee shop that's closer to them. I try to make things as convenient as possible for the buyer, because I find that if you make it convenient for them, there's a higher chance they're going to say yes and they're going to meet with you. So, if they live out by Boston, maybe we'll meet out at a coffee shop somewhere out there and just talk for a half hour, go over the buying process, ask them a bunch of questions, and then, try to figure out what they're looking for. And then from there, earn their business by saying, hey, look, I found this property that's not even listed on the MLS. It could be a good fit for you. And usually that translates into, okay, well, maybe I should be working with somebody else who's going to work a little bit harder than the last person I was talking to.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so true. It's amazing, too, how many people we run into that just say, yeah, I have someone that sends me emails, but I never even hear from them. So just making that contact probably once a week would make such a huge difference, right?
Definitely.
So what are some of the biggest misconceptions now, Nate, that you're hearing with buyer agency or the buyer side of the business?
I don't know. One of the biggest things I hear from other people is they don't really want to, like the role playing we just did. Most people don't want to do that. Most buyer agents are working with people that they might already know, friends or family members and whatnot, and they don't spend the time to actually find ready and willing buyers. The second thing would be, people don't use the buyer agency agreement that we have, and they end up losing people that maybe they spent a lot of time with. Maybe they go off the grid and they just buy something on their own or with somebody else, and they have nothing in place to protect them as far as getting that payment for all the time and effort they put into that person. Those are the two biggest things that I'm seeing now as far as, mistakes that people are making.
And I agree with you 100%. And why do you think, I personally just don't get it, but why would somebody, for me, it's like I'm on a listing side, or at least when I was on the listing side, it would be like having someone sign a listing agreement or taking a listing with no agreement, right? Isn't it the same thing? Like, why would someone work with a buyer without an agreement?
I guess it's not required would be the first piece, and the second piece is maybe it's a hard conversation that some people don't want to have. I find a lot of people that are working with buyers, they're maybe a little bit more laid back, a little bit more relaxed. And like I said, starting off, you kind of become more of you have to be careful not to become a friend. You have to be a professional and an acquaintance or a friend at the same time. Because if you become too friendly with people, maybe you're saying, well, this person likes me. I don't want to, ask them to do something that maybe they're going to not want to do. And that would kind of ruin the rapport that I built with this person. That's probably the reason that some people have in their mind. But at the end of the day, you have to look at it like if this person appreciates me like I think they do, they shouldn't have any problem signing a piece of paper that's really just a representation of that commitment they have to me and to working with me.
Yeah, I love that. And what you just said too, I mean, how does that translate into, the difference between a friendship and a professional relationship? When it comes time, when, they find a house and it's the perfect house for them and they kind of know it, but they're maybe not agreeing with it, right? Or they're resisting. How does that help at that particular time?
I would say it helps in the sense that if you're able to have that tough conversation up front to say, okay, I like you, you like me, but, at the end of the day, this is my livelihood. I need to have something to ensure that I get paid. If you do indeed buy a home, if you're able to have that tough conversation, then you should be able to have that same tough conversation when the right house comes along and say, hey, I know you guys like to look at houses, it's fun and everything, but based on everything you've told me, this is the house you need to make a move on, and, maybe that person is hesitant on the price or whatnot. You have to provide them with the information to say, no, this is the price that makes sense based on the current market value, and here are the reasons why. If you're able to have that hard conversation in the beginning, you should be able to set that up for the future tougher conversation to say, hey, it's time to go now. It's time to make a move on this place and not be concerned with any, negative response that you might get from that person.
And how many houses do you show on average, Nate, to one person?
On average,
yeah.
There's situations where I show 1 or 2 houses to somebody and they buy. There's some situations where, you show 10 houses. I would say the average would be, for me, probably 5 to 7 homes that we see. Some people, they go into it thinking they need to see 100 houses. It's just maybe they saw something on TV or they talked to a friend that was looking at houses for 3 years before they bought something, and then they have that notion in their head. That's one of the other things you have to kind of get past and say, no, like if you really know you want to buy a house and you know what you want, like we shouldn't be wasting time looking at 100 houses. We should really be able to narrow it down up front. So we're only looking at the stuff that really has good potential for you. And that is a very important conversation for any buyer agent to have with a buyer client, because time is very valuable. You don't want to be running around showing houses for 2-3 months to somebody who maybe the answer for them is they're not ready to buy a house. We need to kind of try to figure that out as soon as possible, so you don't continue to waste time with that person.
So you're setting that expectation up front. Are you telling them, like, we typically look at X amount of houses, or?
I do. Yeah, no, that's a question that I answer during the first consultation. We'll talk about, what someone's expectation is as far as the process is concerned. And if they respond by saying, well, I'd like to look at, 50 homes, then I say, well, we really shouldn't be looking at 50 houses if you know what you want in a house. And that's kind of why we're meeting right now. So we don't have to look at 50. So I'm asking you, 50 questions right now to really narrow down where we know exactly what type of house you're looking for. And there aren't 50 of those houses available right now. So there's no reason to look at 50 houses.
It's awesome, man. So what's your biggest challenge? I got a couple more questions, Nate, and I'm going to let you get going. I know how busy you are. What's your biggest challenge right now?
My biggest challenge is actually just what we talked about, figuring out who is a serious buyer and who is not, and finding out as quickly as possible. Because you really have to have those strong conversations with somebody to find that out. And if you don't make the time, or you can't make the time to do that, then you end up wasting your time. So I guess that's my biggest challenge, is really honing in on somebody and figuring out if they're going to buy a house or not.
I love it. So on the listing side, we call it pre-qualifying. It sounds like the same thing on the buyer side, right?
It's exactly the same thing, yes.
And Nate, what makes you successful? What makes you more successful than all the other buyer agents that are closing, 5, 6, 10 houses a year, 15 houses?
I would say it's pretty simple, persistence. There's some people that I have been calling and following up with, that I'm working with now. I've been calling them for over a year, sometimes 2 years. We have that data. We have the database names and numbers that we need to, be consistent about actually looking at and actually picking up the phone and dialing it, sending out emails, because you never know when that person's actually going to be ready. Most people aren't ready right away when you first meet them at an open house, or they reach out on a listing, but they will be ready eventually. So I would say persistence is the key, and consistency as well.
Love it. Yeah, sounds like follow-ups in there as well. Final question, my friend, this is called One More Sale, Path to Mastery. So on our listeners' path to sales mastery, what is the one thing that you want them to take from this interview?
I would say follow-up. Just follow up with people. I mean, you gotta call someone. Sometimes it's the 5th or the 6th or the 7th or the 8th time you follow up that something comes together. So don't give up on somebody because they don't answer the call the first 3 or 4 times. Just keep following up with them. Don't stop, because most people aren't doing that. So if you keep at it, eventually you're going to have good results.
Brilliant, my friend. I love it. In my book, the Sales Playbook, we have a chapter that says the fortune is in the follow-up, and it's proven that about 70% of our business comes from follow-up. So, friend, you nailed it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
This is One More Sale.
If you're anything like me and you love podcasts, I guarantee you're going to love audiobooks. And audible.com is the largest resource of audiobooks. I'm super excited about my partnership with audible.com, where I can offer you a free audiobook. All you have to do is simply go to www.davidsfreebook.com and sign up, and you get yourself a free book. Yes, absolutely free, never charged, no membership. If you love the service, then obviously continue using it, but this is completely free. You can get a free copy of the book we talked about today by going to davidsfreebook.com and download your free copy today. How do you beat that?
You are listening to One More Sale with your host, David I. Hill, author of the Sales Playbook. Get your copy at www.thesalesplaybook.net.